Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters for Anfield Index. This season draws ever closer, and last night Liverpool played not one but two games. There was talks of agents in the stands, there's talks of players leaving, there's talks of farewells, there's even talks of who might be arriving. I think we've got a fair guess who we'll be referring to then. What is for certain? We will predominantly be talking about the football and, of course, all the other things off the pitch. But here to join me as ever is the renowned and the respected David Lynch. And I suppose for you last night, David, was it, I don't know what the word is, nice to get back to Anfield and actually reporting on football, as it were?
Yeah, definitely. It's the football is much better than the whole transfer thing. As interesting as all that aspect is. And yeah, it's always good to get back into Anfield as well, because that's the first time. Well, actually, I was there doing some filming on the Friday, but the first time I've been back there since he lifted the title for a match at least. And so, yeah, and an interesting one with the back-to-back games as well. Gives you loads to talk about. So that was really nice, and two wins as well. So that's always good as well. So yeah, definitely good to be back there.
There is, like I say, so many things to talk about. Game one and game two, as we could call it. So we'll get into the Athletic Bilbao games, or Club Athletic, as they prefer to be known. So I suppose looking at the two games and trying to blanket them together a bit, overall, there was plenty of good run-outs, wasn't there? There was a lot of positives from last night.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of getting the minutes they need. I mean, I just think these kind of back-to-back friendlies, I think they're just going to become a feature, because it just makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? When you've got such a squad game now and everybody's got to be ready, to only be able to give some of the players 20 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever is not enough really to have them really sharp, especially those who are kind of on the fringes, but you need them to be ready to have an impact in the coming games. So the fact that you can give as many minutes as you want to basically the entire squad is really handy, and Liverpool managed to achieve that. And I thought, in both games as well, you saw some good performances as well. So confidence getting into the players on top of that. So really, really good run-outs. And, in terms of fitness levels, everybody's looking good. Obviously, a couple of absentees, but Liverpool generally in pretty decent shape. And everybody got the minutes that they needed. So hopefully now that Community Shield is coming around quickly, they'll all be ready for that, and then it's straight into the Premier League season as well.
I mean, with it being pre-season, we always talk about not basing too much on the lineup, and you mentioned injuries and absentees, which we'll talk about as well. But when we take a scan of almost the first 11 and who started that against the second 11, and what almost felt like, maybe it's too harsh to say, but the actual starting 11 are the ones who are going to feature, did it feel like almost, barring Alexis McAllister, the second 11 was largely the key crux, or 99% of what we expect to be the main starters this season?
Yeah, I think what you can confidently say is kind of it's going to be the starting 11 for the Community Shield, give or take. Alisson, not sure exactly where he's up to in terms of coming back. So I think that's going to be the starting 11 for the Community Shield, because obviously McAllister is not quite there in terms of fitness levels. He's missed a lot of pre-season, so they've got to get him right. So I think it's the strongest 11 they've got at the moment, certainly. So yeah, I think that's pretty nailed down really, and it's up to the likes of McAllister to finish his pre-season almost and get himself there to push his way into the team. Similar with Curtis Jones as well. So, any of those players who weren't quite in that starting 11 need to kind of fight their way into it, really. So, yeah, this looks like Liverpool's strongest squad, bar those kind of couple of absentees that you touched on as well.
Yeah, it was a really strong squad that started, and talents in both sides, to be fair. I mean, injury worries. We hate talking about these pre-season, but Arne Slot did mention it when he was talking. We're hoping to have VVD and Alisson back for the Community Shield, as you mentioned there. But, I mean, there is a name, and I don't think there was too much surprise from some, but Connor Bradley being injured, it wasn't the best. It's not been the best pre-season again for him this way, has it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the big question mark over him at the moment, isn't it? Is he able to stay fit for us full season? He hasn't quite managed that at Liverpool yet, and it's a big test of him, because I mean that spot is there to be grabbed if he is able to do that, and he is able to kind of get rid of these little niggles, but he just keep to be kind of plaguing him at the moment. So fingers crossed It doesn't sound like anything too serious, so that's quite good. But of course, serious enough to keep him out of yesterday. So we'll see. You feel that Frimpong is going to start that Community Shield now. And I guess, if he does that and he plays well, then it's his shirt to lose, isn't it? And we've seen a lot, very much sticks with that thinking. So, poorly timed really for Bradley. And we'll see how that whole competition at right back plays out from there on in.
Yeah, seems like it's going to be tight for Joe Gomez. And naturally, we will talk about the centre-back positions. But picking out a few players from the other night, I mean, this kid, by the way, who took about a minute and a half to re-announce himself. The last time we were chatting about Rio Ango and saying, we can't get too carried away. You've got to give him a chance. It's getting hard, though, isn't it?
It just keeps doing things, doesn't he, that make you it just make it impossible to kind of play him down or not heap expectation on him. I mean, it's just we're just looking at a truly special young player, aren't we, really? Who I just genuinely think can have an impact on this season. And I've said before, I think that's the feeling amongst the coaching staff now that he's ready. So, why hold him back? Why block his pathway? So, he's just worthy of that. And, you've got to kind of maybe in your mind put him more in that Raheem Sterling bracket than a normal young player, really. He is just capable of breaking through at the age of 16, 17 and genuinely doing things at first team level. And the strike yesterday, the assist as well. He looked very comfortable at Anfield, didn't he? So I'm sure we're going to see an awful lot of him this season.
It is an interesting one with Ngamo because a young talent, they've got to safeguard him. And again, but it does feel like almost this conversation maybe changes or reassesses a little bit. They want to safeguard him, but when we talk about him as that Chiesa replacement, it feels like he could well get more than 500, 600 minutes potentially next campaign.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think you have to acknowledge, and I think the coaching staff are acknowledging this, is that, like I say, we can hold ourselves back as much as you want, and that is the better route with 99.9% of young players. But if you get someone who is a bit of a prodigy and comes through at the age of 16 and shows that they are ready for first team football, and by the way, he's not just doing this in pre-season. The reason he is so heavily involved is because he's been doing this in training for the past year. Yeah. This isn't new. This isn't just kind of, he's had a bit of a lucky purple patch in pre-season, throw him in the team. This is genuinely going on behind the scenes for a long time. So they know how good he is, and he's taken a leap this pre-season that, again, in training has almost surprised him a little bit. But as you say, that is going to add up to way more than just Chiesa minutes next season. I think the domestic cups are an absolute lock for him to play in. And then beyond that, I think, I'd be amazed if he doesn't play in the Premier League and maybe even get sub appearances in the Champions League as well. Now, that is not going to be 50, 60 starts this season, anywhere close to it, but it will be more than 500 minutes, I'd imagine, if he can stay away from injury. And as I say, you've almost got to kind of change that classification in your head that, yes, you want to protect a 16, 17-year-old, but if you do get a Raheem Sterling, if you do get a Michael Owen, suddenly appears from nowhere, you just have to accept that that's what they are and you have to use them. And as I say, don't block the pathway and make sure that you kind of nurture that and get them in, all the while, being careful about the minutes to a certain degree. So he just looks like someone who's that level, and I will be surprised if we don't see, more than Chiesa minutes, as you say, this season.
It's exciting every time we see him. So a goal and assist last night. See if he gets any minutes in the Community Shield. But as much as that photo's funny, because it looks like Harvey Elliott's a bit peed off that Rio's taken his starlight from what it could be, on the left-hand side, he's kind of being ignored a bit with Ekatike and all the other ones we talk about, quite rightly. But Cody Gapo, I mean, technically, do we say he scored a hat-trick last night? Is that what we're going with?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't think he was claiming the match ball of it. Yeah, but you're right. Really, I spoke about this on my own channel after last night. Really, that all the change there, that completely new look attack. You're gonna have, obviously, Salah is the star and has always been the star, but you're gonna potentially add Isak. You've already got Ekatike. Florian Wirtz is just there behind it and can probably play in that front line as well. No one's really talking about Gakpo, and yet he's had a good pre-season. He's scored goals. He's looked really sharp. And he's just got a big role opening up for him this season because Diaz isn't there anymore. Engamoa is going to play minutes, but I don't think it's going to be over 1,000 maybe, or it's not going to be like high level of minutes. So, there's a real opportunity for him to absolutely nail that role down. And I think he's good enough. And I think he's going to have more space to operate in as well because of what is around him. So, he's got so much to like about his game. Brilliant shot on him. Pace, power, his height as well that he adds.
Yeah.
So loads to like about him, really. And again, I just think it's going to be a big season for him. He's 26 now. He's entering his peak years. So you want to see the peak version of Cody Gakpo. And I think pre-season suggests that he's ready to show that.
Yeah, he has looked good so far, as of so many, which is great to see. And I suppose the other thing that was interesting, the midfield scenario. I mean, there's been quite a few impressive performances, but the standout for me last night, I thought Dominic Szoboszlai in that 8. I thought he was really good deeper last night.
Yeah, and I think he has been all the way through preseason, really, hasn't he? I just think it suits him down to the ground that he doesn't have to do. You're not asking him to do like Wirtz things where it's like unbelievably tidy touches and like creating chances and really dictating the pace of the play and things like that. He can just be a kind of a runner who arrives late into the box. He's cute enough in his passing, but he's not unbelievable at that aspect, but he's certainly cute enough for an 8. So he can be, the best of both worlds. He can be creative. He can be a bit of a destroyer at times. He just, for me, absolutely tailor-made for that role, really. And I think, his ability to fire passes through the lines, it makes greater use of his running power as well. So again, his development and the emergence really of how good he is in that 8 role, you're kind of like, how does this all really shake out in the midfield? And I don't know, because everybody else is looking pretty good as well. Nice problem for the managers to have, but it's going to be a kind of a fascinating tale for the season, I think.
Yeah, it is an interesting one for the midfield because, you mentioned a few there. Florian Wirtz, obviously, is a superstar. We know that. We saw his touch again last night. Alexis McAllister still to come back. I thought Gravenberch had a decent game overall last night as well. Some nice touches. That midfield, we're not even talking about Curtis Jones. He seems to have almost assumed that squad role. It's going to be so competitive in there next season, isn't it?
Yeah, I just genuinely don't know. Obviously, going into the Community Shield, McAllister probably not going to be ready to start, judging by the 11 yesterday and how many minutes he played. And then the first Premier League game, Gravenberch suspended, so he's not going to be available for that. But then kind of once you get the other side of that and everybody's fit and available, I honestly have no idea what he's going to do. Because I just don't see, how do you leave Szoboszlai out in his pre-season performances in that 8 role? How do you leave, Gravenberch out when he's the most natural holder and he was brilliant last season, brilliant again last night? And how do you leave McAllister out when he was probably your best midfielder last season? And you can't leave Wirtz out because he cost you 100-odd million. And then Curtis Jones is competing for minutes. Wataru Endo is competing for minutes. It's just absolutely crazy strength and depth in that area. And I have no idea what's going to be the strongest 11 or the strongest starting midfield when you 10 games in or so.
It is something that, and again, we'll see if anything develops it in that area transfer-wise at the same time. And I suppose the only other player that may be a bit of a surprise, because we saw brilliant flashes from Ekitike, didn't we, for the assist? Mo Salah gets a good goal, plays some brilliant passes. Horrendous penalty, but at least he's got that out of the way in pre-season again. Trey Nyoni, really quiet, really unassuming. Didn't expect to see him start at centre-back, but another good, solid performance from the kid, wasn't it?
Yeah, it just feels like it says a lot that they trusted him to do that as well, because, it's so easy. And we've got a kid to just kind of protect them, put them in the easier position for them, and then maybe use one of your senior players as a centre half as well. But he just so composed in there. A couple of passes early doors that you can't be playing those as a centre half, but I think he quickly learned. And then from there on in, very, very composed, and a bit of defending where he's kind of in a 2v1 situation. It was very, very intelligent bit of play there. He's just a clever player, and he's not kind of, Engamo has been standing out with the goals and the assists and the dribbling. It's so exciting, but I think Nyoni's been quietly very, very impressive in this preseason. And again, he's got a bit of a problem there in that midfield is ridiculously stacked. So, can he find enough minutes this season? But I hope so, because I think he's a fabulous young player.
Yeah, it'll be a tough one for him to get the minutes he's probably looking for. It'll be interesting to see what slots got plotted, but so many good performances across the board, which is pleasing to see. And yet, Despite all that, the biggest chat was, is that Alexander Isak's agent in the crowd? I'm sure you got wind of this, and there was chat above social media that for incomings, we were always going to talk about the Alexander Isak situation, but you've probably seen it, photos galore. Isn't it Alexander Isak's one of his two agents? Everyone's speculating at the moment, aren't they?
Well, one thing I can say, so I don't know if Isak's agent was there yesterday. I wasn't able to spot him, so can't really stand that up. I did see the rumour, that suggestion, but one thing I can say is I don't believe that man is him, because I'm pretty sure that's James Featherstone, who works for Omnisports and is Will Wright's agent. And I think I saw that guy laughing and joking with a guy who looked very much like Will Wright's dad. So I'm pretty sure that is who that is, James Featherstone from Omnisports. So I think we can at least say that man isn't Alexander Isak's agent. Now, whether he might be sat elsewhere in the stadium, he could have been up in hospitality or whatever, I'm not 100% sure. On that, I would maybe say it doesn't feel massively Liverpool to have that happening while this saga's ongoing. I mean, the messaging from their side is trying to kind of, they don't really want to be talking about this situation a lot, do they really? It's becoming a bit of a circus already, and Liverpool don't want to throw fuel on the fire. They're trying to act respectfully, so having the player's agent there when you can just do these negotiations over the phone or whatever, I don't know. I'd be a little surprised if that was the case. But as I say, probably the only thing I can guarantee, I don't know if he was there or not, but that's not him. I can say that much.
Fair enough. So maybe the Liverpool episode of Where's Waldo has still got time to evolve. And I mean, you mentioned the circus. It's hard not to sort of obviously reference that, because even the Geordie Journo side are very much now that it feels that if Newcastle can get striker or strikers plural in, and Benjamin Sesko obviously had the Ornstein bomb last night, although in the last hour there's talks that Manchester United have made a bid at the same time as well. There does feel almost an inevitability if Newcastle, or when maybe Newcastle get these forwards in, that bid's going to follow and the dominoes all fall, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. I think we're seeing now clearly that Newcastle have accepted the fate a little bit with Isak, and there's no point trying to keep a player who's unhappy. But of course, they also have to replace him in some way. And this Sesko one is a little bit concerning, isn't it? I've seen David Ornstein now putting out that story in the last 5 minutes that United have made an offer. So I think from a Liverpool perspective, that's a touch concerning maybe, because, if he does prefer Old Trafford, then, bad news for Newcastle, probably bad news for Liverpool as well. I think, Newcastle do have alternative striker targets. So, Watkins has been spoken about, hasn't he? Gonzalo Ramos. But do those players want to join? Do Newcastle think they are enough to replace Isak? I'm not entirely sure. I don't cover Newcastle, so I haven't got a clue. But we'll have to see how that plays out. And are they in a desperate enough situation with Isak where there's no chance of him staying for another few months or whatever? Again, not stuff that's really easy to kind of find out from a Newcastle perspective. So we'll have to see. I think the easiest route for everyone, or certainly the easiest route for Liverpool, is if Sesko agrees to go to Newcastle, because I think profile-wise, they could sell it to themselves as he's not a bad replacement at all, given his profile. But I think this is a bit of a slightly kind of worrying development. I'd say that United are now firmly in for him. So we'll see what choice he makes. I mean, if I was the player's agent, by the way, I wouldn't be advising him to go to United, because they're shambles and I don't think they'll be much better next season. But, it's the allure of Manchester United, isn't it? So we'll see.
Yeah, and you probably know which one of those is going to pay the stupidest wages to a young talent as well. So we'll see if that factors into it. I mean, for the Liverpool point of view, and when that first bid gets made last week and then naturally it gets turned down, you'd have clocked this. There seemed to be the briefing from the Liverpool side. That was it. They were going to walk away, but that was never going to be the case, wasn't it? It was just another link in the chain to keep the process going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I people can't read, by the way, because my own reporting of it was that Liverpool are saying that they don't plan to bid again, but people didn't read past the but, unfortunately. But it was so clear from their kind of perspective that this was a little bit of a position, and a kind of, they needed to get some encouragement from Newcastle. I mean, I'm saying a position. I mean, that's just absolutely true, that Newcastle needed to give them some kind of show that they wanted to negotiate and speak. And I think the clear kind of, domino effect, as you talk about there, is that they needed to get some forwards in to know they were in a position to actually sell Isak. And they're still not there. They're still not in a convincing position with Seshko. So, still waiting for that. But it's clear, isn't it, that if Newcastle do get that done, or they get a striker over the line, then Liverpool will come back with a bid for Isak. And I think the clear direction of travel, in my opinion, is that Isak does end up at Liverpool. But as I say, in terms of just making that a bit easier, it would be nice if Manchester United fell out of this race for Seshko and Newcastle United could get it wrapped up, not least because they've been rejected by about 10 strikers this summer as well.
Yeah, that's not been a good sign. And as you said, that David Ornstein tweet in the last sort of 10 minutes, Man United believe that the striker favours Old Trafford. So let's say, fingers crossed, that is wrong. But we'll have to see what happens today. For all the positives of this summer and all the good things in terms of incomings, the defender chat seems to have been the one that's lingering on. And there's no new centre-back arrived at Anfield since Jarell Quansah's departure around a month ago or so. The Mark Guehi story, I mean, that seemed really hot at one stage, but maybe a way of putting it, it seems almost stalemate. And then obviously Paul Joyce had the other day that Newcastle may go back in. It seems to have gone cold, this link.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a waiting game at the moment. I think Liverpool, as far as I'm aware at least, is still absolutely there for him. Obviously, Newcastle may go back in and that adds competition, but I've had no indication whatsoever that Liverpool are out of the race, as we speak today. It's just a case of, I think they are leveraging that pressure that's on Crystal Palace about losing the player for free. So, that pressure grows, doesn't it? As the window gets closer to its end, that will be 1st of September. So, again, there's a feeling that maybe Crystal Palace's asking price is coming down from where it was a couple of months ago. And they will be, quite keen to sell, because losing the player for free from a financial perspective for them is not great, is it? So, we're just waiting really for a breakthrough, for someone to blink, really. And, if Liverpool can't get Guehi, I think they will go for that younger profile we've discussed before. But we're still in a situation where Guehi is very much in play and a possibility for Liverpool. So until that's not the case, don't really have to think about alternatives. But obviously the key is for Liverpool that at least before the window ends, that they've got someone in, and Guehi at the moment still looks like the main target for that.
And you mentioned alternatives there. I mean, you've talked before about, I think it's Leone, it's pronounced, the youngster at Parma. There's been Koulirakis mentioned, I think it's pronounced. There's that profile, the 18 to 24. I think the one thing we can be certain is before the summer ends, at least one centre-half is arriving at Anfield.
Yeah, I'd be amazed if they don't, really. I know it's something people are panicking about, but I really would be surprised if they didn't sign there. That's the clear kind of intention from the recruitment staff. And Slot himself has said we haven't replaced Jarell Quansah yet. So, he clearly wants someone as well. So, I'm not too concerned about that yet. And I don't think I will be until we get much later in the window. And Liverpool's recruitment staff are pretty keen to get one in.
And I suppose because people, and it's already jumped to in the chat, I know we've talked before about one centre-half, two centre-halves, but people are naturally looking, aren't they, and thinking, well, last night, Ibu was the only senior centre-half. You had Endo there, you had Robbo and Trey Nyoni. Yes, there's Joe Gomez, but there's always going to be a big question mark around his fitness. But it does feel like, barring a change of structure in the way we do things, it's likely to be one, even if people want to.
Yeah, just still really can't see them signing two. I just think, they only use two at a time. Yes, it's a bit of a pain when you get in a situation like last night where, all of a sudden Gomez and Van Dijk are missing and it looks really thin, but they're going to add one more in. So that will, make things better. And then, of course, then you've got Endo as your fifth choice. So I think he's perfectly capable of playing centre-half as Liverpool's fifth choice, particularly when they only use two. And I know Gomez's injury record means that people want another one. But the reality is you're just not going to sign someone who's, just to account for the fact, not least because of the wages and all those issues, who, when you've got everybody fit, someone's just not even making the squad. That's just not a passable situation. And I think the fact that, Endo is probably going to struggle even more for minutes in midfield with that competition we spoke about being added to by Wirtz playing in the attacking midfield role. There are minutes for him there at centre-half. So, League Cup games, does he come in and play there? alongside whoever's out the team at the moment. That I think that's the ideal scenario in terms of keeping everybody happy. And as I say, I think he's a very, very good option there as well. So, Endo is fifth choice with those four ahead of him. I think will be perfectly fine personally.
Yeah, it will be one we're all wanting to see at least one come in. So fingers crossed there's some developments on that. And I suppose in terms of young forwards, before we get to Will Wright, it just seems to have gone quiet on the board around Fofana, Rodrygo, another, bar the Isak developments, which we're all, of course, waiting for. It does feel silent, and maybe it is because of young Rio and others across that extra forward coming in, doesn't it?
Yeah, again, I'm just getting the impression, and it's something I wrote about on my Substack. If people want to subscribe and read that, this week, about the idea that I just think Isak would be the final addition in terms of the front line, really, and I'd kind of be surprised if not, because what's being talked up a lot behind the scenes is the fact that there's versatility amongst that attacking lineup. Havertz can play on that left-hand side, so you're not too reliant on N'Gamoa, and also that might suit you in certain games to have a Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch, really solid midfield, or Curtis Jones in the mix there, or even Endo, of course. So pushing Havertz into the forward line from time to time, using Frimpong as cover for Salah. So they feel like they've got options there. And of course, the four that they would have as the senior options are undeniably elite. And I would also say N'Gamoa is way further along in terms of his development than we maybe expected coming into this. So they would say that's enough. I get the feeling that that's what they feel will be enough. So, if that proves to be the case, the proof will be in the pudding. But, to me, it doesn't look like a bad set of options at all.
Yeah, injury dependent. It does look at decent options, no two ways about it. And I mean, the young lads on the screen, I think he came on the pitch last night, Will Wright. He looked 12 years old, basically, didn't he? And he nearly had a glory moment when Chiesa slipped him in. This seems to be a good transfer for the youth team. We've beaten Arsenal, but I think the way Liverpool are briefing it, Will Wright is not expected to play any senior part this season. It's Rob Page and under 21s, it seems, for him.
Yeah, that seems to be the plan. I mean, again, does he come into the mix for the bench for a League Cup game? Certainly, if you're at home, maybe is there a chance there he could sneak in? Because again, you may be restricted on your senior forward options, and you might want to give certain ones of them a rest completely. And if it's a quite straightforward tie, having a kid like him on the bench is no problem at all. So maybe you be around it in that sense. But yeah, not getting the feeling that he's a first team signing at all. I think there's a bit of development for him to do there, but it looked lively at times, didn't he, when he came on?
Yeah.
Shame he didn't bag that one at the end. That would have been really nice for him, but I liked his movement, I liked some of his pressing as well, so clearly a talent there, but not someone who's quite, I think, going to be a big part of the first team like N'Gamoa maybe coming into next season.
It is interesting, this, and a few have put this, as Podol's put there, Slot has talked about two players for each position. We know that's a quote that he's given directly before. Yeah, as he said, say players out of position as cover is fine, and almost having that small squad at the same time. But, I mean, we could only work off what seems to be suggested, which does seem to be Isak potentially and a centre-half, maybe Guehi, when no one's fully sure. But there's nothing, even as much as some of us would like it, that suggests another three, certainly not four coming in the door, is there?
No, the thing is, I know Slot has said that, but you kind of sometimes, the managers, you got to kind of read between the lines sometimes, and also just accept what he's doing. So, for example, I mean, he will have two in every position for the goalkeeper, the back four, central midfield, absolutely. The only area where he maybe won't have that is in the forward line. But as I say, there are alternative options there. I mean, look, if he said to the recruitment staff, I don't want to sign Isak, but I'd rather spread that money across two players, that would absolutely be the call, and everybody would get on board with that. But I think he sees the value in having four senior options who are absolutely up here level. And you throw Havertz into that because he is kind of, on top of that, really, because he is an elite creator and goal scorer as well himself. Yeah. I think he's happy with that. And that's certainly the picture I'm getting, so that he's happy he doesn't necessarily need a Diaz Gakpo situation on the left-hand side. He's absolutely happy that he'll use N'Gamoa sometimes. He'll maybe use Havertz out there in certain games. And that versatility, that flexibility allows everybody to pick up the minutes that will keep them happy throughout the season. So these decisions wouldn't be made without his input. And if he wanted 2 more forwards rather than 1, I just don't think they would be dropping 120, 130 million on Alexander Isak.
Yeah, it does seem that way. Well, we'll have to see if there's any developments, because United may have just thrown a fly in the ointment, but bound to be things coming up around incomings this week. Where it seems busier is the outgoing side. And obviously we had a bit last night when we look at what happened. I mean, Darwin Núñez scores a goal last night. Seems to be running around quite a lot. The applause at the end, the tapping of the badge. Does it feel like a farewell goal for Darwin from what we're hearing?
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite that advanced as far as I'm aware at the moment. So I just think it's kind of, for him, this might be my last Anfield appearance. This could get sorted in the next couple of weeks. So, just in case, I will, show that appreciation. And I think the fans showed their appreciation to him as well. So it is moving, but I don't think we're quite kind of, this is immediately imminent or anything like that. Still waiting a bid from Saudi. There's that AC Milan interest that's come to the table now, although that feels like an absolute waste of time in terms of the valuation that's placed on his head. So we'll see. That's not, nothing. We're not in the position now where the bid has come in yet. So, you can't confidently say that's his last Anfield appearance, but there is also every chance that it is. So I think that's why he was taking the opportunity to kind of almost say goodbye in that moment.
Yeah, it does feel that way. We'll see if anything develops on that one. And Federico Chiesa was in the second game, but he was on the bench, so he had a few minutes there. As much as people looked at that, maybe thought, he's with that first 11 or that area of squad, a departure still feels inevitable, especially the way Rio's going at the moment.
Yeah, with Chiesa, that was... I think that was just a situation whereby they knew that they couldn't use Ekitike for the full game, and therefore they needed someone senior to kind of back him up and come in as a replacement. So, no change as far as I'm aware. I still expect him to go. Italy is always, since the start of the summer, have been saying the likeliest destination, and that remains the case. We just await a side kind of firming that up, and whether that will be a loan or a permanent. But yeah, I'd be really, really surprised if he's still here at the start of the season.
Yeah. Just feel like
just to come in, by the way, because the chat is talking about Rodrygo a lot. I really don't think he's going to be a target. Like that shot down pretty firmly a couple of weeks ago that he is currently not a target. I do believe that kind of the finances around the deal are a reason why, but also quite clearly amongst the thinking as well is, as I say, the versatility, the options they've currently got in the forward line, the fact that you don't want to block Engamoa's path. All these things are adding up. Again, I feel like you can almost kind of rule him out, really.
Yeah, it's always good to knock a few down, guess who style at this stage of the window as well. And I mean, there's almost a sadness to this because he got his goal, but afterwards, and he's done it before, as we know, at senior games, but Harvey Elliott went round the stadium on his own, didn't he, stand by stand? And it just felt that maybe you can read too much into this, but the Spurs talks, there's links with Red Bull, that could again be Harvey Elliott's last game in Liverpool shirt at Anfield.
Yeah, he definitely gave that vibe, didn't he? Again, kind of nothing imminent, but it could be soon. So, if that's the case, then, he kind of, wanted to make sure that he said goodbye to all the stands and really kind of make the most of it, really. And it's really sad, isn't it? Because he's a Liverpool fan. He's given absolutely everything. He's won trophies here and he's played really, really well at times as well. Yeah. So I suppose that's the positive he should take if he does leave. He's lived his dream, really, to do this, to win things at Liverpool and to score the goals he has and to, play as many games he has. But it does just look like it's coming to an end now, doesn't it? There's just, talking about that competition in midfield, talking about the fact that Frimpong is considered cover on the right-hand side. There's just no real room for Harvey Elliott to play a significant role anymore, which is a shame. But I do think he will do well elsewhere, and we await to see which club truly firms up that interest. But there will be a lot of interest because he's a really, really good young player with plenty of room to grow.
Yeah, homegrown and more in the profit column, but it does feel like he's set to depart. And one that seems 99% done, this was Tyler Morton yesterday, landing at what looks like a very nice weather in Lyon there. I mean, we're just waiting probably at some point for this to be announced, I think, today, aren't we?
Yeah, so I was told yesterday that Let me just check this. Yeah, expected to complete his medical today, basically, and total fee could reach 15 million with a 20% sell-on clause included. So, looks a good deal for Liverpool. Looks a good deal for him as well. Going to play at a high level in a really nice part of the world. So again, he's been waiting for this opportunity to really go and kick on. So, I think that could work out really nicely for him. And yeah, you wish him all the best because again, he's played for Liverpool. He's been part of trophy-winning squads. And he's come through at his boyhood club and managed to play at that level. So, fair play to him, but it is time for him now if he wants to take the next step in his career to go and play more regularly. So this is it.
Yeah, and he will be a star in that team as well. And I mean, he scored last night, Ben Doak, and it seemed to have gone a little bit quiet on him. But then I know you put out this morning, Ben Doak still getting interest there as well, and West Ham and Wolves. From that, I mean, the intimation, are you expecting still a departure for Ben Doak in this window?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, again, it's clear he's not part of the first team plans. And I think for him, he was essentially up for sale last summer if someone had reached the right fee. Obviously, ended up getting a loan move to Middlesbrough instead. And then when permanent interest came in January, it wasn't quite at a fee that Liverpool wanted to bite on at that time. They felt that if they kind of left him at Middlesbrough longer, they would possibly get more. But of course, then he got injured in the end and wasn't able to kind of complete that loan stint. But plenty of interest in him again. And that's just a couple of clubs who are there. There are other clubs in the mix. And, again, if someone comes in with the kind of right fee, then he will be moved on. I don't think anybody really wants to be in the situation where they're loaning him out again. I think a permanent would probably be best for all parties, but we just wait and see how that one goes, really.
Yeah, see if anything develops there. And yes, a few of you have pointed out that when I was rushing a little bit ago, I have spelled outgoings wrong, but I'm sure you got the topic with what we were talking about and discussing there at the same time. And I mean, there was a few others were on the pitch last night. Jayden Danns was, James McConnell wasn't, but there still feels like there's a raft of Bacetic wasn't with the squad, outgoings of sorts, whether it be permanents or loans, still to do near the end of the window.
Yeah, so Dan's, again, if you expect him to get a loan move, and he probably does need that, having missed so much football last season. And similarly with James McConnell, expectation is new contract and a loan move, and quite a lot of interest in him around that as well. So, just a lot to resolve really in these final few weeks of the window in terms of the outgoings, and quite a lot to resolve in terms of incomings as well, I guess, in terms of Mark Guehi and Alexander Isak. So, yeah, it's been a busy one for Richard Hughes so far, but it's going to stay busy for the next few weeks, and I bet you can't wait for September the 1st to be wrapped up. That's how you say it, isn't it?
Yeah, he will be looking for a break, probably well earned at this stage as well. And there is a surprise question which we sometimes throw into you, so I will do it now. It's not too bad as normal though, so you don't need to panic too much. From all the signings and what you've seen so far, not the player of the year or anything like that, which player do you think is going to give Liverpool best value for money from what you've seen of the new signings so far?
I know it sounds mad to say about the player who you spent over 100 million on, but I still probably think it's going to be Florian Wirtz, because I just think this guy just looks ridiculous, doesn't he, already? I just think he's going to be so central to what Liverpool do in forward areas this season, despite him being a new player. Already, it's funny because you look at kind of his ratings on the apps and things, and he doesn't look that good in the friendlies, but you actually watched him and it was like, this guy is a magician. He's going to be unbelievable. So, really, really excited to see how he gets on, and just excited to see him be the focal point of that attack, really, because I think even if they sign Isak, he will be the main man. And I genuinely think he's shown flashes that he can be worth every penny of that fee. So, despite how big it is. So I just, can't wait to see more of him. Can't wait to see him in the Premier League. Can't wait to see him kind of leading that Liverpool team, really.
Well, that's a bit of a taster for you, because next week is obviously the Charity Shield, so the season opener, as it's also known, which also means you're going to have to start making your predictions for pre-season and see how they work out at the same time as well. So I'll let you prepare for that as well. But there we go, ladies and gents. 2 games back to back. Who could possibly want more? Agents in the stands? Possibly. Players doing well on the pitch? Definitely. More moves this week? Who knows? It's all to play for, isn't it? There's bound to be more stories, twists and turns. And just in case you did join us a little bit late, everyone's obviously waiting to see what happens with Benjamin Sesko, and Manchester United have now made a bid. So we'll see if that delays or disrupts an Alexander Isak move. But all it leaves me to say is ever, for the time, the insight, and answering all the questions, David, it is much appreciated.
No problem. And I note that someone has called us the double Ds in the chat box there, which we will not catch on because we don't want to be known as a pair of tits. So, but thank you.
There's got to be something better than that. Although I won't invite suggestions. It'll probably get worse. So yeah, we'll see on that one. But on Tuesday, the 5th of August, that was another Media Matters for Anfield Index.